starting a bit early today because, yeah, I had some time and I wanted to play some Monster Train. Hi Chris, welcome, glad to see you. So, since the last time we played, there has been a new patch, the controller and keyboard update, which allows us to play the game without using the mouse, which is nice. Full gamepad, controller and keyboard support. Hate the mouse, now you can play the whole game without it. Large UI scale option, if you play on TV or just want cards and the UI to be bigger in general, now you can scale it up via the accessibility area of the settings menu. Also works well in combination with Steam Big Picture and the controller. Also, new gameplay keyword, cultivate. That's an actual gameplay change. An open clan keyword that increases the attack and health of the unit with the lowest health in the room. There are some things about controls and keyboard settings. I'm more interested in the gameplay changes, so let's take a look at those. Cultivating Sentient's card draw moved from a revenge trigger to a card's draw modifier that scales with champion level, and Cultivating Sentient gained a Cultivate as a revenge trigger that increases the stats of the lowest health friendly unit and scales with champion level. Also, Cultivating Sentient health scaling at levels 2 and 3 reduced. 100 to 80 at level 2, 200 to 160 at level 3. Now that level 2 and 3 have ability increases, not just health increases. So let's take a look how that all works out. We have Revenge, Cultivate 1. Draw +1 each turn, goes up to 2, then 3 for both effects. So, Sentient, the Cultivating Sentient changed quite a bit with this. I do really like the changes and I'm excited to play with them. Yes, I am definitely gonna try that because as far as I'm aware, the next champion in our list for the streak would be the Sentient. If I remember things correctly. Oh, this is taking This is taking very long to load. I hope nothing broke. Let's give it a few more seconds. Uh-oh. Let's quickly restart this. Maybe it has something to do with the mods as well. Because there are a couple of runs in the history that are from the Arcadian clan, so maybe that breaks things. It didn't break things in the past, but who knows. Anyways, Awoken Hollow Rejuvenate trigger changed from targeting self only to using the Cultivate keyword. So instead of giving itself +1/+1, it will now use Cultivate 1, so it will give the lowest health unit on the floor +1/+1. Which might be better or worse, depending on circumstances, but it makes it a much better frontliner if you're using something like an Animus of Will, because the Animus can use these buffs much more effectively than the Hollow. Awoken Merchant of Steel upgrade changed from Spikes 4 to 10 health and Spikes 3. Love this change. That makes that upgrade a lot more useful. I almost never took it before that. Maybe I'll take it occasionally now. Permafrost trait added to Ice Tornado. Like that. It's good flavor and it makes Ice Tornado a bit better because it was quite weak compared to something like Crypt Builder, which dealt the same amount of total damage but had a tuned and offering on top of it, while Ice Tornado only had the random damage allocation, which could be considered a downside in some situations as well. Firelight Little Fade 3 attack bonus decreased from 30 to 25. Makes sense. Firelight was definitely an extremely strong champion path, especially close to the end game. This still doesn't change that. It's still gonna be an extremely viable upgrade path, and it's gonna be quite powerful anyways, just a little less so. Excavation Eruption, cost decreased from 4 to 3, and number of strikes decreased from 4 to 3. This one is hard to evaluate. It definitely helps with making Excavation Eruption more easily playable if you get it early on, and more pickable. So I think this is overall a buff to the card, but there are certain decks that do not like this change. I think it's slightly better in most decks and slightly weaker in some. Paraffin Thug health increased from 3 to 10. That's an interesting change. Not much to say about that. Paraffin Thug is the one that gives you gold on Slay. Seems pretty solid now. It was always solid. The health just meant that you really had to protect it against sweep, and it would very easily die to spikes. Now it has, I guess that change matters the most if you put a Battlestone onto it, a +5, +10, which 13 health would still eventually die to spikes and sweepers. 20 health usually won't. So yeah, that's nice. Also, you can more easily use it without any health upgrades. Not a bad change. The Abandoned Train event can now also give out Imp in a Box or Amber Cache. That's really weird to me, because Hellhound and Umbra already have had multiple options there, while Melting Remnant only had a single option. So if they had options, I would have expected some of them to be from the Melting Remnant clan. Although there aren't a lot of options there in terms of consume cards, there is Sacred Wicks, which could work, and possibly Memories of the Melted. But Sacred Wicks is not in the pool that you can get from the Abandoned Train. For Melting Remnant, it's only the Hello Drippings, the 5 burnout on everyone. Penitent Remains attack bonus increased from 1 to 2, Amber Stasis damage increased from 100 to 120, and Weather a Cold Stones now trigger with each Blight Blade instead of once per turn. Nice! Makes this event a bit more valuable. Amber Stasis was useful before, and it was definitely the most picked option for me. Penitent Remains got the biggest buff, doubling the effect, which makes sense because it was certainly the weakest option out of the three, and I only ever picked it with Primordium, I think, because you could gain quite a bit of extra damage out of it that way. And Weather Cold Stones, they were theoretically pretty good, but it was extremely rare that you needed that, and could also deal with the downside of actually having these blights in your deck now. But the Pyre healing you get access to by them is actually quite reasonable. Boneshine changed from 2 times Pyre heal with Consume to 5 times Pyre heal with Purge. I think that's a buff to the card. Yeah, it's definitely a buff to the card. Not necessarily a necessary one, because I think Boneshine was decently useful. It's not like it will be much more useful in most runs now than it was before. You will usually pick it in the same runs. But now, if you pick it, it's better. Not much to say there. Bone Rattler changed from 3x Pyre attack to 5x Pyre attack. That's actually a lot. That's a lot of Pyre damage. Still, Pyre damage is not something you usually want to go for. I don't see myself picking this up that often, but possibly. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice buff. The Revenge attack buff option of the Abandoned Winged event additionally grants 20 health upon return or 30 health after waiting. Very powerful buff. That buff used to be quite weak before. Now it's very significant and actually on par with a shop upgrade, with 30 health being a bit more than a Hearthstone even. And you get the Revenge attack buff on top, so even if it doesn't land on your tank, it can still be worth it. The Extinguish damage option of the Abandoned Winged event grants 40 damage up from 20 or 60 damage up from 50 plus Quick after waiting. I love the idea of including Quick to that upgrade, because it just synergizes pretty well. The unit gets a final hit off before it dies and deals the Extinguish damage. Yeah, I like these changes as well, because before, the upgrades to units were very rarely worth it compared to the upgrades to spells. Crushing Demise Sentence Order and Trigger Order reversed to reduce player confusion. Not sure what the issue there was. Titan's Claws artifact verbiage now specifies duration. Okay. And Bugfix addressed an issue where Molded would not automatically reform a unit if there was only one unit available, and there was a consumed spell in the consume pile. Oh, I see. How did they change the wording of Titan's Claws? At the end of the turn, frozen cards are reduced to 0 cost until played or discarded. I see, okay. I think that's not a change. I think it always used to work that way. But it's good to specify it. Kill a random non-boss enemy unit, kill a random friendly unit. I'm not sure why they changed the order of that. Doesn't really make it seem like it would make a difference to me.